Hello everyone and welcome to the Bloodline. This is a review. I'm going to try to keep it about 20 to 30 minutes. Might be longer because I don't really have a good judge of time. The game is in early access. It's been out for a little bit, about a week now, and this is probably like one of the only times I'm going to do like one of those reviews of like, should you buy it now or should you wait? Because I don't like telling people when they should or shouldn't do things. Because it's their money and they can do what they want to do. But I'm not going to waste any more time, and I'm going to jump right into it and say, I think you should wait. I don't think the amount of content that you're going to run into is going to be enough to really satisfy you in the long term. Now, I've played close to 18 hours in the game, and I've kind of hit like a stopping point where there's not really much else that I feel like I want to do. The story has kind of hit a dead end. There are certain aspects that simply don't work that I want to experience properly, and because the things don't work or they're just really just convoluted and just don't seem to work well, I just haven't wanted to keep playing. So that's really why I'm saying that I don't quite recommend this at this time. I don't think it's a bad game. I do think the price point is fantastic. Because I mean, right now, while it's on sale, you can get it for like 14 bucks, and you probably are going to get $14 worth of gameplay out of it. The problem is, with so many games coming out, you know, if you're like me, you like to play a game and get kind of invested in it and play it up until you kind of reach the end of it. You're not going to do that here, and I honestly have no idea when the game is actually going to be complete. I look at the kind of estimation on the store page, and I don't buy it. Like, I don't think that's going to be accurate whatsoever. So, and it's just like personal opinion based on just like my experience in the game after 18 hours. They could totally do it, but yeah, I just personally don't think so. Now, I want to talk about a lot of the pros because I think there are a ton of pros in the game. And so I don't want to like mix it all with the negatives. So I'm going to probably just get like all the negatives out of the way, because I figure the negatives are going to be the things that if those aren't that big of a deal to you, then you're probably going to want to keep playing. And this game will actually be for you. So, without much further ado, let me get into the negatives. So the negatives are, number one, the story. Now, I have been incorrect a couple of times and have referred to this game a lot as like a kind of mix of Morrowind and Mountain Blade. Yeah, it's not like Morrowind at all, realistically. The only part of Morrowind that it really feels like is because you get experience for basically everything you do. And that experience from running, jumping, climbing, fishing, gathering, mining, you know, all of those things definitely have a bit of a Morrowind kind of feel to them, but the game is far more Mountain Blade. When it comes to the story, there is so little story that if you're jumping into this to play it for the story, I mean, you're going to be finished with the story relatively quick, because it's just incomplete. There's just not a lot. The setting is here, the world has been established, but there's just not a lot to the story that you get to experience. And that was kind of a downer for me, because I was enjoying what I was playing, but then when I ran into you know, basically just the end of the quest line with no more direction as to what I needed to do, whether or not there was anything to do. And so then I ran around aimlessly for a couple hours and just started exploring, and I've decided there probably is more story, but I'm just, you know, I'm just not going to find it anytime soon. Which then opens up like all the other things that, you know, are a little bit detracting from an otherwise really enjoyable experience. So, I'll start now with probably the upgrade system. So when you level up, which I'm a little bit far away, so it's not going to happen for this video, but when you upgrade, you get a little upgrade system here, and you get 3 stats you can go into. Basically magic, health, and stamina. Those are pretty much it. So stamina does your strength, the magic or the mana or the wisdom or whatever it is will increase your magic. You know, mana capability, and then, you know, health regeneration for health and stuff like that. So, I mean, they're self-explanatory, they make sense, but it's very limited for an RPG to only have 3 stats that I'm ever putting anything into. It kind of makes it seem almost like it's more of an exploration game first, and it's more of an RPG second. Which seems weird because it's definitely kind of sells itself as a RPG first and foremost. But anyway, so when you level up, you get to go to the skill trees, in which there are many that you get to do. I don't know if tech just doesn't work, or if it's something that I just haven't unlocked. I really do not know. These are all the different weapons that you can get and become basically better with, which I think is, you know, pretty cool. The odd thing is, some of these, as an example, there are no proficiencies in. So it kind of makes it so where you don't want to use it. So in some of these, you can, you only need a skill point, but you only get 1 skill point for every level up. So it's really difficult in a game that says it's classless for you to run around with the intention of being kind of a jack of all trades or do a lot of different things. It's very difficult to do that when you only get 1 skill point, and so you can really only put 1 thing into anything at any given time. The proficiency points, I don't know what they do, to be honest. It doesn't seem to be tied into buying any specific skill. I don't notice that I do any considerable damage or anything like that, so I really don't know what proficiency does, so maybe that's why it doesn't matter that some proficiencies simply do not work. But I'll go into that. So this is how you use your skill point. Use your skill point to basically increase the capabilities of your weapons through the use of skills. And some of the skills are really cool. Like they honestly are some nice things that you can get to use. So I do like the different skills you get. I just feel like it somewhat just the skill point 1 at a time for level just kind of make it really difficult to actually make any progress, I feel. I'll go over archery and aimed weaponry shortly. And then we have magic. There are tons of spells, which is so cool, except for I really have to decide, what do I want to do? Do I want to go into druidism? If I do, I'm probably going to have to focus entirely on it. Blood magic, same thing. It's just I'm pretty much kind of tied in to just doing 1 specific thing, which for me is kind of a letdown because I'm leveling up quite a bit. I'm gaining proficiency. I'm doing all these things. Why am I, having such a difficult time really increasing my capabilities when it comes to magic? So, but I'll go ahead and I'll just pick some stuff here. We'll do druidism because that seems to be like one of the things that a lot of people are really, they really like. And so one of the other problems that we run into kind of immediately after that is we have 2 hotbars with five numbers apiece. I can't use everything that I've just gained because I don't have room for it. So the only thing by choice is to basically take away some things that I don't use or I feel might be a better pick. And that's probably not going to be an issue for everyone, but for me it's a real big detractor from actually really choosing what I'm gonna play as. Even though I have so many classes of magic, all my skills are under 1 magic, in a book. Like, why are these things not like added in multiple places? You know, I feel as though they should be. Why does my wolf form carry a shield? So there's just a lot of things where the game is just obviously still in kind of, you know, heavy development to try to get, you know, creative. And occasionally this happens. I have no idea what's happening here. I guess he's just gonna be stuck in this kind of endless loop, so we'll just let him do his thing. I think I'll be fine to kind of continue on. So, moving on into continuing kind of like the issue here, we also have detailed stats. Detailed stats tells us all of our passive levels. And we get like a lot of other cool stuff. Like, it tells us all kinds of things that are going here of everything we've done. That's super cool, but it's not really super helpful. Now, the passive levels, some of these things, either they simply do not work, or I have not figured out how to do them. So as an example, speechcraft. I have yet to find a conversation with an NPC where it actually does something, or, you know, that I've been able to use it. Accuracy doesn't work. The only way that I can make accuracy work is if I do like these little mini games that pop up. And as somebody who wants to be an archer in the game at times, this kind of ruins the experience for me, because when I have all these other options that are being increased, having one that isn't is just like, yeah, I'm not going to be an archer, which kind of ruins part of the gameplay experience for me. Pickpocketing I don't do, and then some of these aren't quite in the game yet, so I can't really talk on those because they're just simply not here. There is no two-handed skill for proficiency, which I thought was kind of weird, but, you know, it is what it is, I suppose. So, moving on, we'll go into the Overworld, which is, it's kind of like a mixed bag for me. Overall, I like this feeling. It's very Mountain Blade-esque. It seems to work relatively well, but then when it comes to things like pathfinding, it has a bit of a problem trying to figure things out. Some places it will do fine, and other places it will do not well at all. I just have to find probably like the right place to try to, you know, to try to see what happens. But the game just sometimes has an issue with crossing bridges, and it can be kind of annoying. Like, okay, so as an example, it happened here. So I want to go over here. You know, I'm right here. I have to click the right place. But if I, you know, happen to be at the wrong spot, I mean, it's not going to do it. I'm going to have to click it again because it can't figure out how to get me to where I want to go. And that is problematic, to say the least. So, that's really my only major complaint with the Overworld map. You can hold space, it speeds it up, travels relatively quick. So outside of that, I don't have any issues. One of the common complaints I have seen, which really hasn't been addressed much other than just saying like it's being worked on, is performance. Getting into a town will just straight up tank your performance. Some of the cities are worse than the others. Kenmore's not like that bad, but there are some locations in the game that it's obvious, you know, they're still early in development. They're not quite ready for you to go to, but it's an early access game with a lot of locations for you to go to. So if you're like me and you want to explore, you're gonna go everywhere. And nothing sucks more than going to a location and finding out you can barely do anything because your frame rate, you know, tanks so bad. So performance is definitely an issue that a lot of people have run into. You know, I'm not going to cherry coat it and say that it runs fantastic. There are, in most cases, I haven't had any issues. It runs great. I have had no problems whatsoever. But in towns, and there are some certain combat locations where it just, the game just runs so poorly that it's just impossible to really use anything, to do anything. Mounts, well, it's cool to have mounts. You know, they certainly work, but they're relatively kind of pointless. They all seem to be pretty close to the same speed. You know, it's just really not, you know, that rewarding of experience to be had, because, you know, for the simple fact that when I run, I get experience for running, which I could use to go towards leveling up, but riding a horse, it does nothing. And this area is basically devoid of pretty much anything, so it's just a place to kind of run around and look at while I'm talking. But it's not really something I'm gonna keep talking about. So we're gonna go ahead and go. And I think really overall, like, I've touched on all the things that kind of make me say that you should wait. You know, the story, there's just not a lot of story right now, and if you're playing it for the story, you're gonna run out real quick. There are some things I didn't touch on yet, but that's because I look at it more of a positive than a negative. So we'll go, you know, we're not going to go here. We're going to go somewhere else, because I know we get a quest line here. But yeah, again, these bridges, I mean, you either need more bridges or something needs to be fixed, because it shouldn't be that difficult to go over a bridge. So, yeah, and the other thing is just there is, even though I've played it for 18 hours, like, now that I've played it for so long, I have started to run into that whole, how much content is there really to do? And honestly, I feel like I've done all the meaningful content so far. There just doesn't really feel to be much more incentive for me to keep playing until, like, a major update has been pushed. And while the price might be great, I think that's definitely a detracting point. But it might be enough for you. Who knows? But that's enough of all the negatives. Let's end this on a positive note and start talking about all the positive things. You already... oh, you know what? Before I do that, I realize I do need to go and talk about the town. Because the town building, while it exists, it is quite possibly one of the most useless things in the game that I've experienced. Because none of it really seems to work the way that you would expect, or you can't build certain things, even though that shows they're accessible, or it's so difficult to gather all the resources required to build them that it becomes tedious and a grind. Now, I think it's a great idea. It's just, I think it's not quite there. That also is going to go into some of the lack of direction. In games like Morrowind, you might, and other RPGs, even though you're not told exactly where something is, they can be rather effective at giving you a good idea of where to go. They can tell you, like, hey, you know, you can go to a specific town to get wheat, or this area is known for certain types of trees or ore. But there's not really any of that in the game. Occasionally you're going to see something for a quest that'll tell you to, like, hey, you can go to this specific location to fish and catch something we're looking for, or kill a certain person. But those are few and far between. So a lot of the times you just feel like you're running around somewhat aimlessly. This is something I've been working on building. It's a quarry. I can't, because I can't get any mining picks. The mining picks are in the loot table. Basically, you find those as you explore and loot chests and everything. In 18 hours, I have not found a single mining pick. So I can't build it. And for me, trying to make progress into building my town, as I've run into issue after issue of not being able to build them, I really lost all interest in trying to build anything for the town, because while it may have its benefits, such as this engineer station, which I can now come and use the table to build something for engineering, I can't really finish any of the buildings I wanted to work on, and that's frustrating. So crafting is something I would consider a positive, and now we'll move into positives, because that's where we want to end this. You get experience for building things from crafting, and there's a couple of different ways to craft, a couple of different things you can craft as well. And auto craft is only useful for if you're building something like a weapon. It's a little bit more complex. Not here at the engineer, but somewhere else. But this is, if I do it correctly. Okay, so it didn't do it here, but you have to be careful when you're crafting, because it is possible to basically craft so much so quickly that the game just starts to stutter and have like an incredible issue. So there's that crafting, and crafting for the most part is pretty similar everywhere. You have some alchemy that you can do, you have some fishing, so I'll run over those, because I do think the crafting minigames are probably one of the better sellers of the game, because I have enjoyed a good portion of them, even though I've basically stopped because there's not any value to really keep doing them. But I think they're a cool aspect. So you have potion crafting, which is, I think, really well done. You basically get to, you know, choose, you know, different ingredients. You can change kind of like how you want it to be, which is going to give you like all kinds of different, you know, item effects. And you can name it whatever you want. You craft it, you get experience. It's cool. You also have cooking, which you can use as you learn to cook things. All you have to do is come over and just kind of choose a specific thing, and you can cook it, and it makes life easy. It is a little bit, at times, frustrating to figure out, you know, what the recipe is. I mean, for me, as an example, I've basically just kind of given up, because there's no real indication of what's going to work. Things that might make sense to you, like cooking garlic and chicken and some kind of vegetable, it doesn't lead to a recipe, so you really don't know. You have to kind of guess at what you're doing until you finally get something. The crafting minigame has two options. You have this way, which is interactive, where you have to kind of push the right key properly. Doing this will give you some bonus experience, which is used towards, you know, increasing the skill of your weaponsmithing. Or you can auto-craft it just to do it quickly. It's okay. Like, it's not like an amazing experience, but I think it's pretty decent. I just haven't used it a whole lot, even though I do enjoy it overall. And then we also have this ability here where we grab a book of certain types. Yeah, well, I didn't make it to the book. And we come over here to this table that's not really marked in any clear way to basically learn letters. And the way this works, I'm not really doing it on purpose here, but the way this works is you have all the stuff over here, you write down the letters, you're going to get experience, and it's actually... it's really well done. It's pretty cool. I do like it. And I may not have fished, but fishing is also pretty fun in the game. And I definitely enjoy that. And I'm gonna, you know, just head out here to this wolfed over timberland, because I should be able to finish things out by talking about the combat, because the combat is probably the thing that I like the most, and it's probably the only reason I've played it as long as I have, because I do find it really enjoyable. So if you were to attack on Titans, fan, one of the things you could do is you come over here in the trees, although it does take stamina. You can basically come over here and, you know, get your own little attack on Titan stuff going on, which is pretty cool. I mean, it could be Spider-Man-ish too, I guess. I feel like there's not as many opportunities in the game to use it as I would expect. It certainly happens, but it's something that doesn't happen very often, that I really use it. Which was kind of unfortunate because it seemed like such a really cool aspect. So here we got combat. Combat, I'm using melee because that's what I like to use. But I'll switch to some archery too, just to kind of show what that looks like. Because I think the archery is really well done. It just sucks that you can't actually use, you know, actually gain any experience for it. Yeah. Well, anyway, that's it. And you also have, you know, of course, you know, magic combat. I ended up not really going as heavy into the combat or into the magic as I had originally planned, and so that kind of minimizes kind of like what I'm going to be able to show during this for the magic. But there is a ton of magic spells to use, which, you know, again, it's, you know, the positive and negative there with. It's great to have so many options to use magic. It's just unfortunate that we only have basically 10 quick slots that we can use for the magic. It definitely cuts into things. And it's also strange that some of the best spells in the game that I've experienced are ones that you find just from kind of exploring and collecting skill books. Like this spell, where I'm dropping a tombstone. It's arguably the best spell in the game that I have found. Because I just drop it on people, they die, and like everybody's happy. But yeah, like I said, combat is very, very satisfying. I really enjoyed it. And I think it's definitely probably one of the most major selling points for the game. And that's really it. That's really kind of it. I mean, it's and I really, you know, I'm ending on a positive note, but I know that I did a lot of focus on basically more of the things that I find kind of on the negative side, and it's because I think you should wait. I feel like while as tempting as the price may be, I can't guarantee you're gonna go in there, you're gonna feel like you actually got your money's worth. I personally did, like I said, 18 hours. I mean, it's been a game that I've really enjoyed. I've just unfortunately kind of reached a point where it's like, well, there's not really anything else that I want to do. I've already explored all the areas that are currently available. Quests, for the most part, in areas seem to have kind of dried up, so it seems to be kind of hard to find them. So there's not like a whole lot for me to do anymore. And, you know, it's time for me to kind of go do something else and come back to this cult probably a couple of months from now. So, I am going to end the game by showing you probably the coolest place in the game that I've experienced. So if anything, it'll at least give you a good idea of kind of something that's coming, which hopefully will be enough to, you know, give you a nice, you know, nice picture of the game. You'll have like the full picture. You've seen like a lot of what it has to offer, and hopefully I've shown enough of it to kind of make it seem like I know what I'm talking about. I mean, if I can get over this bridge. There we go. Alright, we're going to go to the Mines of Monladir, because the Mines of Monladir, like I said, they're probably the coolest place in the game that I have experienced so far. Maybe the other place is the Necropolis, but the Necropolis seems to be very much under development, so I'm not going to show you that. And this is a location that looks like it's almost certainly going to be kind of like a key part of the game. Like there's going to be some kind of story element or something. And it seems like it's going to be just an absolute blast. But for now, it's just going to be a way for me to end the video. This part is really cool. And it's weird because this place, even with all this stuff going on, seems relatively optimized. It runs really well. I'm not running into too many issues. So it's just kind of weird that there's so many locations that, you know, that don't. And that guy killed me, so... Or I got hit. Either way, that's that. 30 minutes, kind of right on track. That's my thoughts on the Bloodline. I think, again, like I said, it's a good game overall. I definitely like it, but I just think it might need a little bit more time in the oven before I consider it, you know, a little bit more done. Links are in the description, and as always, thanks for watching.